Hi, thanks everyone for joining in. I'm excited to have Jess Kitching joining me today. Hi, Jess.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Jess is the author of The Girl She Was Before, which is a psychological thriller that looks at the lasting legacy of a trauma like bullying. Originally from Bradford, England, she currently lives in Sydney with her fiance. Her two goals in life were to move to Australia and have a book published. Signed to Kingsley Publishers for three-book deal. Her second novel is due for release later this year. So thanks, Jess, for joining us. This is we've had you before in Global Girls Online Book Club. You've been our author for the day before, so great to have you back for an interview. And just wanted to mention as well, some people might have seen me share before how much I loved The Girl She Was Before. A really, really gripping read. And one thing I found as well, really descriptive in some places, which I really enjoyed as well. So thanks for joining us. Do you want to start off by telling us a bit about The Girl She Was Before?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, thank you. Gonna get an ego from those lovely compliments. I really appreciate it. I've got a copy of the book here, and there's a lamp just at the side, so some nice glare on on my book here. But The Girl She Was Before, like you said, it's a psychological thriller that looks at the lasting legacy of a trauma like bullying, and it centers around the protagonist Nat, who was someone that was a victim of bullying when she was younger, and kind of left the town that she grew up in and moved back, kind of reinventing herself and kind of orchestrated this really nice, perfect life for herself. But then it all starts going sideways when her best friend is murdered, and it also coincides with the return of the biggest bully at that time. And then it all kind of starts going downhill, I guess, from there.
Yeah. And
Very quickly downhill.
yeah, it does, doesn't it? Could you tell us what was the first idea you had for it?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if this is the best light, but I have a facial birthmark on my forehead, and I do a lot of advocacy work for facial differences and
Okay.
kind of understanding, kind of differences and
Mm,
bullying and advocacy around that stuff. And I was being interviewed by someone who asked about my experiences, so I kind of said, "Oh, when I was at school, I had like a coin thrown at my head for target practice, and I used to
uh,
visit Ugly Jess in the year because of it." And the lady said to me, she was like, "I'm so sorry you were bullied," and I was like, "Oh." I wasn't bullied. I didn't see myself as someone who was bullied. I was like
yeah,
friends. I felt,
yeah.
but then it was that bit where I thought, actually, those times where you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, you're ugly, you're disgusting.
Mm,
Like those things that I said were never my own thoughts. It's what someone had told me before. And I was like, well, if I still think that and I'm affected by it and I
mm.
didn't see myself as someone who was bullied, imagine if you were someone who was bullied. And then it all kind of spiraled from there. So I would say it centers from lived experience and then
Mm,
has gone from there.
mm, mm. And how did you go about getting your book published? Was that a long journey for you or something that happened quite quick?
I think like most authors, it's definitely a long journey.
Mm,
A lot of rejections along the way, a lot of near misses where you're like, I think it's going to happen, and
mm,
then it doesn't and stuff. But I feel very blessed to have found Kingsley Publishers that are really supportive and like really collaborative with a lot of things such as the book cover design and stuff. So yeah, it was a long journey. And to any aspiring authors out there, I just say, keep going. It'll
yeah.
happen. It'll happen.
And is writing a book something that you always thought you would do someday?
Yeah, I was definitely, the kid at school that was always had their head in the books, and then
Mm,
the one that was always writing stories and had just this really like vivid imagination. So to be an author, I always wanted to be Jacqueline Wilson. She was my hero when I was growing up. I once met her at a book signing, and I was just speechless. I was like,
mm.
she's real. um, so yeah, being an author was always kind of like my end goal, and
Mm.
so pretty proud of myself that it's happened.
Yeah, yeah. And could you tell us, like, when you were growing up, what sort of books did you like reading yourself?
I was just like the biggest Jacqueline Wilson fan, so it was always very. I I'd say like real life stories, but they were always quite dark. Like I'm not sure if you've read many Jacqueline Wilson books. There's always like Tracy Beaker grew up in a children's home and she was in care. That was a dark, like kind of there were all these dark themes. There was one theme about a girl that had been kind of abandoned at birth. That was one, and then there was stories about parents divorcing and things. So it was all like real life stories, but quite a lot of like psychological elements and that impact on people. And I think that human nature study always fascinated me, even from
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, and we've got quite a few people watching, so just wanted to say to the people watching, if you do have a question for Jess, please type it in comments and I can read it out. Kelly wonders if you could tell us about your plans for your next book.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say. I'm like, I don't think I can release the title or anything just yet, but it's a psychological thriller as well, and very loosely, the storyline is that 1 month before my protagonist Cassie's wedding, she finds out that her husband to be is having an affair, and it kind of all spirals from there. That there's a lot more to it than that. It gets very dark, very twisty, kind of like a twisted revenge love story with a lot of like thrilling aspects. Is how I would loosely word it.
Sounds very intriguing. How far along are you with it?
Oh, it'll be out later this year. It's pretty much done. It's just those final like tweaks and edits and those like last minute bits. So I feel like I'm very much in that mode now where I'm reading it all the time. I feel like I know these characters better than I know myself.
Yeah, and it must be pretty great to have signed a 3-book deal.
Oh yeah, it was. I was so emotional. I think when it first happened, I was very much in the pinch me stage. I signed it before my first book came out, and to be honest, I don't think I realised it was real until I actually held my book in my hands, and I was like, oh, and now I have to do 2 more of these. Oh.
And what about reader feedback? Have you had like a lot of people that you've touched with your book as well that have had maybe similar experiences or?
Yeah, I mean the feedback like has mostly been overwhelmingly great. It's been really, it's the scariest bit putting it out there. It's definitely it's like, oh, I hope people like it. But it's been so wonderful, and I think like you said, because of the subject nature of it and with it being bullying, it's touched a few people, and sometimes it's quite hard sometimes reading the messages of what people have gone through, but I'm really glad it's something that's helped open up conversations about bullying. And I've had some really great chats with people just about their experiences, and I always feel really honoured, I guess, when people share those stories back, because like you said, it's quite a personal thing to
And Wendy said, after you realised your experience was a type of bullying, how did you go about researching the subject?
Yeah, it was definitely a strange realization to look back on and go, actually, yeah, like that I was bullied. That was cool. I think most of my research, to be fair, was a lot of like processing what I felt and what happened to me. I think that was a lot of it. But my background is in teaching. I was a primary school teacher when I was in England, so you do a lot of training on kind of like bullying and conflict resolution. So I feel like I had those experiences, my own experiences, and just like quite a general understanding of it, which I think all fed into the book as well.
And Kim also wonders if it was emotional writing about such a personal experience.
Yeah, there were definitely bits that were emotional, but it was almost in a way it was quite therapeutic, quite a positive experience to write it and to kind of put it down and be like, that's how it felt. Like when people say those things or do that, that is how it feels. And it was, well, I think one of the nicest things about it, in a sad way, has been people sharing bullying experiences and how I can have conversations and people will say like, oh, I still think about it too, even all these years later. And it's that bit where you're like, oh, you're not alone in those experiences or feelings. And that's been quite nice in a sad way.
Yeah. I could imagine that it would be a great book like for older high school students to be reading as well, to talk about the subject as well. Have you had any schools or anything reach out to you?
I mean, the school I went to back in England, I know the English teacher there. She messaged me and was like, "Oh, that she'd really enjoyed it and things." And I do think it's definitely, yeah, it's one of those things, because it's not just about the bullying. I'd say it's about the bit where you see somebody being bullied, and
Yeah.
we've all done it. I did it at school, where you saw someone being mean and you thought, "Should I say something?" But you didn't. I think it's got like good conversation points for schools. Yeah, any schools listening, I would love to chat to you.
Yeah. And Sharon wonders what you like to read now and if maybe you've got any recommendations for us.
Oh, I feel like I went through a really bad reading slump and I've just come out of it. So I'm like, yes. At the minute, I'm reading a book called The Women and the Girls. I can't remember the name of the author off the top of my head, but I'm really enjoying that. I've just finished The Maid by Nita
Oh,
Prose,
yes,
I think
yeah.
it is. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. And Blood Sugar, I've just read that one as well. That's a new one. All kind of thrillers I'm really into, but honestly, at the minute, give me any book, I'm happy to read it.
And what about the research that you did for the girls before?
Yeah, well, like I said, there's a lot of it that's quite personal, and I think that comes through, it comes through in the writing that it's quite personal. But there's lots of bits like, I guess, kind of crime scene stuff. I don't go into that too much, but just like the general kind of questioning and things. In my original draft, my partner, he used to work loosely with the police back in England, and he was like, "Yeah, a police officer can't say that." So I had to kind of go and change some of those things. But it's definitely, the research is one of those bits that you've got to do at the planning stage, I think, because otherwise you do what I did, where you go, "Oh, they can't say that."
Yeah, yeah. And your book does have quite a few twists along the way. When you first started writing, did you know how it was going to end?
Yeah, so I always struggle to talk about this without spoiling the end. And as you've
Yeah,
read it, you'd be like,
yeah.
"Be careful." The end was actually the first, other than knowing it was about bullying. The end was the first thing I thought of, because I was like, I know that I want to read a book where that's the ending.
Okay.
So I kind of did it and worked backwards from there, and then like, threw in the decoys and like, this is going this way, no, it's going that way. So I purposely did that. I did well not to spoil the ending.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're writing, do you have a favourite writing place?
Oh, good question. Normally wearing pajamas is definitely part of my writing
Yeah.
routine. I have a desk, but I find it quite restricting. I'll be like laid on the floor, laid on the sofa. I think I'd love to be, one of those writers that goes to like a coffee shop and writes there. I'd love to be like that, but I think I'm too chaotic and disorganized. You can't wear pajamas in a coffee shop.
No. And do you have a favourite snack or drink when you're writing?
Oh, I think, yeah, like I try to have water. So I think I don't drink coffee, which is terrible for a writer, I know. So I try to drink water, because I think anything with, like, if I had a Coca-Cola, I imagine I'd be running around the room. I'm not used to the caffeine. And then, yeah, snacks, anything. You put anything next to me, it'll be gone in 2 minutes.
And Wendy says, how has the move to Australia been? And have you found yourself settling in easily? And has it lived up to your expectations?
Oh, very good question. I mean, first of all, Australia is such a beautiful country. I feel very, very lucky to be here. It was a little bit strange because we got here and then COVID happened. So you kind of, your original travel plans and things that kind of changed, but feel very lucky to be here. And yeah, Sydney's great. There's always something to do. It's like, you can never be bored. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, it's definitely, I think I still get homesick, but I think I always will get homesick.
Yeah.
Just so it's so far away and so different. But yeah, such a great place to live.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Kim wonders if you use the same writing process for your second book as you did for your first book.
Yes, I started with the ending, and the only difference is with the second book is that when my original draft, I wrote the ending kind of how I'd want it to work out. It's hard to explain, like, when you feel such an affinity to your protagonist. I was like, oh, I want this to be the ending that, like, she deserves. But I'm a thriller writer, so I was
it
like,
wasn't.
yeah. I was like, oh, that's too happy. So I kind of wrote it that way and changed it. But yeah, the ending was always the thing that I start with and then go backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And what have you got any advice that you could give a new writer?
I think I don't think I have any advice that's not given before, but I genuinely believe that the more you read, the better a writer you are. Like just exposing yourselves to as many different genres, different kind of writers from different backgrounds, different countries. I think like there's so many wonderful stories out there, and it's so amazing to have book clubs like yours where you have such a variety of authors and different books to choose from. That I just say read widely and really get to know the genre that you want to write in. I think that's really important.
And Elise says, how is it trying to write book two while you're also trying to have ideas for your third book?
Yeah, I think, do you know the hardest thing about book two is the first book, nobody had any expectation. Nobody knew
Yeah.
who I was. Nobody, like, there was nothing. So people went into it being like, we'll see. And then, as I was saying earlier, the feedback so far has been like just overwhelmingly positive. I feel like now the second book, I've got real second book anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, people have got such expectations. So that's I think that's probably been harder. I already know what my third book will be. I've plotted it out. I've kind of got it already. It's just more the worries about book two that I think that's the harder bit.
And Kim wonders if you'll write any other genres.
Oh, I've had an idea for. I don't even know what genre this story would fit in. It's not a thriller. I guess it's more like a real life book. And I'd like to do that one day. But I think at the minute I'm going to concentrate on thrillers and kind of like build that a little bit more. But yeah, definitely. I don't think I've got the talent to do like sci-fi or fantasy. I don't think my imagination can stretch that far to create a whole new world.
And what has been your favourite part so far of your writing journey?
I know it sounds super cheesy, but just meeting readers, like it's genuinely the most lovely thing when you get to talk to people. And my TBR list is out of control. The amount of people I talk to, I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I just think it's the nicest thing when you actually, because I have such a love of books, to actually get to speak to people about it, and people want to share their personal stories. It's just the best. And the online book clubs and groups are so engaging and welcoming. It's so lovely to be part of it all.
And what about the least favourite part so far?
Oh, I'd honestly say nerves about book two. Honestly, it's so scary because you're like, oh, before nobody had any expectation.
Well, I hope, I'm sure your second book will be just as amazing as your first one.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hope so. I've sent it to a few like advanced copy readers and things. I've had really great feedback, but it's that bit where you're like,
yeah, especially when you've had like a really great first book. I suppose it is quite hard to live up to expectations, like you said.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm someone that I think because writing books is so personal, and I feel like whatever I write about it seems to always come from either a lived experience or something. So you do put quite a lot of yourself into it, and it's really scary because if someone doesn't like it, that it's not that they don't like you, they don't know you, but it's that thing where you're like, but it is me, and it's not. But it's this really weird thing where it's like, please like it.
Yeah. So what does that mean about reviews? Do you read reviews?
I try. When it first came out, I was on Goodreads. I replied to everybody like an hour after hours like this, and I do try, but I get a bit nervous about it, especially with book two. I think as soon as book two's out of the way fully, completely, I'll get back on Goodreads, being like, yep, I'll reply to everyone now. But I do try. Reading's so subjective. Like I've read books I don't enjoy and stuff. I think it's just scary, isn't it? When it's you.
Well, you can't please everybody, can you?
Yeah, and that's like the way to look at it, but I feel like I just get so nervous.
So what do you think then makes a good story?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel like I personally like characters that challenge you. I don't know if you felt this with my book, like when people are like wholly good and wholly perfect, and like part of the joy of being human is that we have kind of like grey areas, or sometimes we do things that you look back on and go, maybe I shouldn't have done that, or your friend says something and you're a bit like, so I quite like characters that are a bit complex and a bit layered and a bit imperfect, and I love a twist. When there's a good twist in a book. I remember reading Gone Girl for the first time and being like, I need to speak to someone about this book. I love it when a book gets that feeling for you.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for talking to me. It's been great chatting to you, and
Thank you.
really looking forward to your next book. Hopefully, I get a chance to talk to you about that as well.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'll be much calmer then.
And do you want to let people know how they can keep in touch with you?
Yeah, of course. So I'm on pretty much all the social medias. I'd say Instagram's probably where I'm the most active. So if you just search Jess Kitching Writes on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter, I'll be on there. But yeah,
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. Thanks so much for chatting to me, and thanks for everyone who joined in.
Yeah, and thank you for all your questions, Will. Really appreciate them.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.